7 months into my pregnancy, I accidentally overheard a conversation between my husband and the poor student I had been sponsoring. Stephen, if your wife finds out that the baby in her womb is actually our fertilized egg, she might get so angry that she'd kill herself, don't you think? Rosie said, and chuckled softly. It'd be better if she did. That way, all her assets would be mine, Stephen coldly answered. The only problem is, if she decides to divorce me and kick me out. That's why we need to keep this secret. Once our child inherits her assets, we'll deliver her a crushing blow. That night, I pretended I didn't hear a thing. I gave birth to the child and raised him with utmost care. Stephen and I had been together for 10 years, 3 years of dating and 7 years of marriage. During this decade, he had always cared for me when I was sick or tired, surprised me in unexpected ways, and held me tightly during moments of passion, whispering that he would love me forever. Had I not overheard that conversation that day, I would never have believed that the man who claimed to love me so deeply could betray me like this. Perhaps they thought I was easy to fool, that I'd never notice anything strange. So Rosie grew bolder by the day. At first, she would sneak around with Stephen while I was at work, but now, even when I was home, she'd find all sorts of excuses to visit. Although I knew deep down that Rosie's visits were all excuses to see my son and Stephen, I never refused her. Whenever she came, I always welcomed her politely. I even agreed to all her requests for help. Stephen seemed delighted with this arrangement. Whenever Rosie came over, his lips would curl into an uncontrollable smile. Sometimes, he'd even flirt with her openly in front of me, exchanging knowing glances and secret smiles. Even my son grew more and more attached to Rosie, going so far as to buy her a pair of house slippers so she could visit anytime she wanted. This life continued until my son's college entrance exams. On the day the results were released, Rosie arrived at our house early in the morning to wait with us. When we saw my son's shockingly low score, Stephen furrowed his brows in anger. "How could you score this poorly?" he snapped. My son, however, remained nonchalant. "So what? Our family has money. Mom can just buy me a spot at any school she wants," Kian declared carelessly. Stephen gave me a subtle glance. Seeing that I didn't react, he continued. "Your mom may love you, but she can't indulge you like this. Running the company alone isn't easy for her. You need to show some ambition. How else will you help her or make her feel confident enough to hand the company over to you one day?" Rosie chimed in earnestly. "Kian, your dad is right. Even though Daphne is your mom and will always take care of you, you need to develop your own capabilities. Otherwise, how will you earn the respect of the seasoned executives when you take over the company?" Watching the two of them echo each other, I smiled faintly and said calmly, "It's fine. I've already planned everything for Kian. I'll send him abroad for further studies. Once he's back, he'll naturally take over the company. After all, everything I have is for Kian." Hearing this, the three of them smiled contentedly. I smiled too, but for a different reason. They thought I was naive. I thought they were laughably foolish. During the process of arranging his study abroad, I took my son to the company every day, teaching him the ins and outs of the business without reservation. On the day of his departure, Stephen accompanied him to the airport, gripping his hand tightly, his face filled with reluctance. Rosie also made a special trip, bringing a pile of things for my son, worried about his life in a foreign country. The two of them gave him endless reminders, creating a warm and touching scene, a true depiction of parents' worry when their child travels far away. After my son boarded the plane, they watched it ascend into the sky, their eyes brimming with tears, until it disappeared from view. Only then did they leave, reluctantly, with tears still glistening. Once my son left for his studies, Rosie visited our house less frequently, but Stephen began going out more often. Each time he returned, he seemed utterly drained. When I asked about it, he'd claim he was out with friends, or had joined a gym to stay fit. On days he ran out of excuses, he'd feign sadness, sighing dramatically. I raised Kian with my own hands. He's never been away from me for this long. I can't help but miss him. If I don't find something to occupy myself, I'll fall apart. Ignoring the lingering scent of Rosie's signature perfume on him, I smiled and reassured him. Kian will be back soon. Then, we can all be together again. Stephen's lips curved into a faint smile, laden with hidden meaning. Yes, soon, our family of 3 will be reunited. 4 years later, my son returned from studying abroad. Just like old times, Rosie showed up early at my house, accompanying Stephen and me to the airport. The moment they saw my son, Rosie and Stephen couldn't contain themselves, rushing forward to embrace him tightly, as if no one else existed. After their emotional reunion, my son walked straight up to me and got straight to the point. "Mom, I'm back. When will you hand over the company to me?" Seeing his eagerness, I smiled calmly and said, "Let's go. I've already arranged a press conference. I'll officially hand everything over to you in front of everyone." At the press conference, the room was packed to capacity. Journalists, prominent figures, and business elites had all gathered to witness the historic moment of the Stellar Sync Group's leadership transition. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, I announced, "My son, Kian, will take over as the new president of the Stellar Sync Group." Under the witness of lawyers and the cameras of the press, I signed the transfer agreement, officially handing over all my assets and company shares to my son. Thunderous applause erupted, and the crowd was abuzz with admiration. Many remarked on the deep bond between mother and son, their eyes filled with envy as they looked at my son. Just then, Rosie arrived fashionably late, arm in arm with Stephen. The room fell silent. Confusion and surprise etched onto everyone's faces as Rosie pulled out a paternity test report. With a loud voice, she declared, "Daphne, the truth is, the IVF child you gave birth to all those years ago came from my and Stephen's fertilized egg. I am Kian's biological mother. Letting him call you mom for over 20 years was already repayment enough for carrying him. Now it's time for you to give him back to me." Her words caused an uproar. Isn't she the impoverished student Daphne always supported? How could she get involved with Daphne's husband, and even have Daphne give birth to their child? This is outrageous. It's the classic farmer and the snake story. Daphne helped her so much, and she repays her with betrayal? And the timing? She waited until Daphne transferred the company's shares before making this claim. Clearly, it's about the money. Exactly. It's despicable to exploit someone to bear their child and then steal everything they own. This is pure evil. Amidst the intense condemnation, Stephen spoke up, self-righteous and indignant. For the first half of my life, I was trapped in a marriage. As a man, I kept convincing myself to stay responsible for this relationship. But I'm human too. On countless sleepless nights, I asked myself, is this truly the life I want? Daphne has a good family background and has treated both me and Kian well, but my heart belongs to Rosie. Is it wrong for me to pursue true love? Marriage is meant to bring happiness, and so is divorce. Marriage should not be a shackle that keeps me from my true love. I hope everyone can bless us. His words were delivered with such emotion, as if he were a victim of an unhappy marriage, bravely defying societal norms to seek love. I paid him no mind. Instead, I turned to my son and asked calmly, "What do you think about all this?" Kian looked carefully at the share transfer agreement in his hand, before responding calmly, "Mom, this will be the last time I call you that. Although you raised me with care for over 20 years, the fact remains that you are not my biological mother. Blood is thicker than water. I hope you won't stand in the way of our family's reunion." With that, he threw a divorce agreement at my face and said arrogantly, "While everyone is here, divorce my dad today and set him free. In light of how well you've treated me over the years, I'll give you $200 a month as alimony." His words sparked outrage among the crowd. No wonder they say like mother, like son. What kind of family is this? Exactly. Everyone knows Daphne always treated her son like a treasure, pampering him for years. And now, the moment she transfers her fortune to him, he turns around and calls someone else mom. $200 a month. That's not even enough for a beggar. How does he have the audacity to say that? I'm an outsider, and even I can't stand this. Daphne, don't pay attention to these ingrates. Exactly. They've gone too far. The crowd rallied behind me, furious on my behalf. Some even offered to help me sue to reclaim my assets. Despite the uproar, Rosie and Stephen remained composed, as if prepared for any scenario. But amidst the crowd's righteous indignation, I smiled faintly and said, "All right." To everyone's shock, I signed the divorce agreement without hesitation. Rosie and Stephen were momentarily stunned, clearly not expecting me to agree so easily. They meticulously examined both the divorce agreement and the share transfer documents. Confirming everything was in order, they finally relaxed and broke into triumphant smiles. Seeing their smug faces, I smiled as well. "Since you've given me such a grand surprise, it's only fair I return the favor with a special gift." Stephen frowned, puzzled. "A gift? What kind of gift?" Everyone else turned their curious eyes toward me.